This is Algebra 2, Lesson 67, and this lesson covers radical denominators. Alright, so the first thing we need to look at is conjugates, and we've already gone over this. This will be a quick review of what a conjugate is. We use these when we're doing like x plus 2 times x minus 2. Okay, that's kind of the same principle we're using here. So on this one, we've got the conjugate is the same two terms, except for the sign in the middle is different. So here it's the same two terms, but the sign in the middle is different. So negative x plus 4, but these ones have a radical on there, okay? It's the same principle. As long as your terms are the same and your sign in the middle is different, then those are conjugates. So negative 4 plus the square root of 3 is a conjugate of negative 4 minus the square root of 3. Negative 4 minus square root of 3 is a conjugate of negative 4 plus the square root of 3. All right, so we're going to use that principle to solve equations that have a radical in the denominator. All right, so when we're solving this, we're not actually getting rid of the radical. It's just going to move it to the top, but what we're trying to do is get it out of the denominator. All right, so what we're going to do is multiply the bottom times the conjugate of this. So that's negative 4 plus the square root of 3. We're going to do negative 4 minus the square root of 3. And on this one, we're going to do negative 4 minus the square root of 3. All right, now let's notice something. If we rainbow this, so we've got negative 4 plus the square root of 3 times negative 4 minus the square root of 3. Let's see what happens. All right, so first we're going to do negative 4 times negative 4, and that's going to be positive 16. Then we're going to do negative 4 times negative square root of 3. That would be positive 4 times the square root of 3. Then we're going to go right here and do square root of 3 times negative 4, which would be negative 4 times the square root of 3. Okay, and then we're going to go 3 times the square root of 3, which would be the negative square root of 9. Okay, and we could go ahead and say we know the square root of 9 is 3, so that whole thing just equals negative 3. All right, so we're going to have 16, and then these will cancel each other out. Minus 3, and 16 minus 3 would be 13. See how that got rid of the radical in that expression. All right, so I'm going to rewrite this. Actually, I'll just erase over here. So this whole bottom part, we're multiplying that, equals, the whole bottom is going to come out to 13. All right. And then our top is just going to be 1 times that, so negative square root of, or negative 4 minus the square root of 3. And here's our answer. We got rid of the radical sign on the bottom. It basically just moved it up to the top. All right, let's do another one. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by the conjugate of this part on the bottom here. All right, so we're going to multiply times 2 times the square root of 3 plus the square root of 2. No, not plus, minus. There we go. The middle needs to be a minus because it's the conjugate, so the opposite of it, of the sign in the middle. All right, so 2 times the square root of 3 minus the square root of 2. All right, so now I'll do my rainbowing over here. So I've got 2 times the square root of 3 plus 2, that's this term, okay? And then I'm going to multiply by that. 2 times the square root of 3 minus the square root of 2. Okay, so we're going to rainbow this. So we're going to multiply that times that. 2 times 2 is 4. The square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is just going to be 3. 3 times 4 will be 12. Okay, that's that first one. Then we're going to end up with negative 2 times the square root of 6. Then we multiply here. We're going to get positive 2 times the square root of 6, because 2 times 3 makes 6. And then we're going to do negative square root of 2 times square root of 2 would just be 2. All right, these are going to cancel. And we're going to have 12 minus 2, which is going to equal 10. So our whole bottom comes out to 10. And then our top, we have to multiply that times 3. Okay? So we're going to multiply this part times 3. 3 times 2 would be 6 times the square root of 3. And then we're going to multiply this times 3, so that would be negative 3 times the square root of 2. All right, let's try the next one. Oh, there is no next one. Okay, so just pause the video and work the practice problems, and I'll come back and work them for you. All right, so hopefully you pause this. This first one, we're going to start with multiply the top and the bottom times the conjugate of that term. So negative 3 minus the square root of 7 over negative 3 minus the square root of 7. All right, so down here I'm going to go ahead and do my multiplication. Negative 3 plus the square root of 7 times negative 3 minus the square root of 7. Okay, so if I do 3 times 3, that's going to make 9. And then my middle terms will cancel each other out because I'll end up with negative 3 times the square root of 7. And then, whoops, I had to go here. That would be positive 3 times the square root of 7. And then square root of 7 times square root of 7 would just be 7. So minus 7. These cancel. We get 9 minus 7, which is going to equal 2. So our whole bottom is equal to 2. And then the top would just be negative 3 minus the square root of 7. Alright, so that's not too super hard. Let's try the next one. Okay, this one we're going to multiply times the conjugate on the top and the bottom. So we've got 3 times the square root of 2 minus the square root of 3. And then 3 times the square root of 2 minus the square root of 3. Alright, so over here I'll do my multiplication. And then I'm multiplying it times 3 times the square root of 2 minus the square root of 3. Okay, so I'm going to go here first. 3 times 3 would be 9. Square root of 2 times square root of 2 would be just 2. You could write it as square root of 4, and then we know the square root of 4 is 2. 9 times 2 is 18. All right, there's my first one. Then we're going to multiply here, which would be negative 3 times the square root of 2 times 3 is 6. Then we're going to go here, which would be, wait, that's a 3. Yeah, and then we're going to go positive 3 times the square root of 6. Then we're going to multiply here. Square root of 3 times square root of 3 is 9. Square root of 9, which is 3, so minus 3. These cancel, and we get 18 minus 3, which is going to be 15. Okay, so our bottom's 15, and then our top is going to be 3 times 5 is 15 times square root of 2 minus 5 times square root of 3. Okay, now if you got this far, that's very good. But this answer, we can simplify that. So we can pull out of this 15 and this 5. So that's the same thing as saying 5 times 3 times the square root of 2. See, how many times does 5 go into 15? 3 times. Minus square root of 3 over 15. Now, if we cancel here, we're going to get 1, and that's going to be a 3. So our answer is 3 times the square root of 2 minus the square root of 3 over 3. Alright, so always make sure that if you can reduce that fractional part, reduce it. So that's the answer right there. Okay, and that is it for lesson 67.